What's up, my friend? Mike Robertson here, and today I want to talk to you about building complete athletes. Now, when an athlete comes into my gym, one of the biggest requests that I have is that they want it all, right? They want to be fast, they want to be strong, they want to be explosive, they want to be well conditioned, they want all of those physical traits. And while I can give them all of those over the course of the off season, what I can't do is give them all of those traits in one training program. It's going to take multiple training programs that are set up in a sequential fashion that essentially culminate in them being an absolute beast when they go on the field, court, or pitch when preseason starts. So in this video, I'm going to break down how I set up 2 or 3 sequential training programs to give a massive training response so that ultimately when my athletes show up, they're fit, they're fresh, and they're ready to go. All right, my friend, so how do we go about setting up a series of training blocks in an off season to make sure our athletes are in absolute beast mode shape? So I'm going to use a 3-block example here. It doesn't matter whether we're talking 2, 3, 4 weeks each, the principles are the same. The first thing you have to ask yourself is, how do I determine if this training block was successful, right? And that kind of gives you a goalpost, or it gives you markers to shoot for. So in block 1, when I'm first getting an athlete back in, I've got very basic goals. I want to rebuild movement quality, I want to rebuild connective tissues, and I want to lay a conditioning base. That's it. I want to get them back into the training process. So if I break this down, R4, which is like my reactive phase, this is my explosive, my power-based work, my sprint-based training. This may only be 10 to 15 minutes, right? I'm just kind of touching some bases here. I'm getting them back in the gym. Maybe we're going to do some fast feet, reactive stuff. We're going to throw some med balls, maybe some low-intensity accelerations, just getting them back in the game. All right, so that's 10 to 15 minutes. When I go in the gym, R5, our resistance piece, generally this is going to be about 25 to 30 minutes. Higher volume in nature, I'm trying to, again, build those connective tissues, shorter rest periods. I'm just getting them back in the groove. Another important piece here, rebuilding movement quality. So I want their squats to look like a squat. I want their hinge to look like a hinge. And then when we get into conditioning, we're probably not going to do a whole lot here either. Maybe as little as 10 minutes, probably at most 15 minutes. So you can see here, we're only talking about a 60-minute session, right? We're not talking about a lot of time. We're not talking about 90 minutes, 2 hours, especially when they're just getting back in the groove. I want to get them back in the training process and we can build them up from there. So that's that first block. And again, maybe 60 minutes. Now, as we get into block 2, this is what I may consider an intensification phase. All right, so now I'm starting to chase a more intense adaptation, whether that's speed, explosiveness, whether that's force output. So now my R4 is getting more intense. So let's say this is probably going to be more in like the 15 to 20 minute range. My R5, definitely pushing this. This is what I would call a force training block. I might call it a modified max effort block because I don't really do true max effort with my athletes. But we're going to push some weight. We're going to work on getting stronger. So this could be anywhere from 30 to upwards of 45 minutes, depending on how many warm-up sets they have, what their main exercise is, and how long we're resting in between sets. That's arguably the most important point here. When we're talking about an intensification block, you have to rest. You have to give the nervous system time to recover in between bouts of exercise. And then finally, when we get to R6, now we're probably looking at, say, 15 to 20 minutes. So I didn't do the math on this, but I'm guessing this is more in like the 75 to 90 minute range. An intensification block is going to require more rest. The final piece in block 3, which would be our realization block, now our R4. So when we're doing our speed, our power, explosiveness, we want this to be as specific to the sport as possible. So again, let's say we're maybe in the 15 to maybe 25 minute range, right? We really want to put an emphasis on this so they get used to those explosive actions before they go into preseason. But here's a big shift. So in R5, in block 2, we're at 30, 45 minutes. Here, I would say 30 minutes is going to be our top. Maybe it's as little as 20 minutes. So in this case, you're probably going to go, you're going to touch your main, right? You're going to get a little bit of work in. You're not pushing max effort anymore. Now it's focused on speed, power, explosiveness, a little bit of assistance work to maintain all the movement quality and the movement variability that you accrued early on in the program. And then your R6 could be anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes as well. So if you're on the low end here, you're in and out in less than an hour. And I think that's really important because as we're getting closer to that preseason phase, you are not the show anymore. If you're a physical prep coach, it's not about you, it's about the athlete, and they're transitioning into more skill-specific work. They're getting their hands on the ball a lot more, they're getting their feet on the ball more. So this is how I set it up. And to highlight all this, when you kind of look at these 3 blocks early on, it's kind of balanced. There's not one that definitely stands out because you're just rebuilding the training process. But as we move forward, block number 2 is going to have a heavy emphasis on the strength side, on the resistance training, because this is where I want to improve force output. Right now, some athletes may not need a massive amount of this, but they need to at least touch it, and they need to retain the quality, versus others who are underpowered, you really need to put an emphasis on it with them. Then finally, when we get into block 3, you can see big emphasis on the explosive actions, the speed, the power, the explosiveness, getting their tissues ready for that explosiveness, and then making sure that they're well conditioned. Because the last thing I want is for an athlete to go into preseason, they're not fit enough, and they pick up some sort of knock or injury very early in the process because I didn't do a good job of preparing them for what they need to deal with on a day-to-day basis in practice. So I really hope this has helped you guys. I really hope this has helped you guys out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, by all means, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to answer them for you. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate your support.